So TG, welcome to part 5, where we're going to be discussing the new MM2H rules and regulations. As you know, TG, I write for International Living, a lifestyle-based magazine with a massive following globally, mostly among retirees and global nomads. So that I think they're going to find this very interesting and very exciting. And I think they'll find it of great interest, because I know you're going to go into detail. Can you give us a full rundown on the new MM2H rules and regulations as of December 2023?
This is the most important update that everybody who is considering a move to Malaysia to know. As we mentioned in part 1 of this series, I strongly believe the elements from the PwC, the PricewaterhouseCoopers plan or proposal for the improvement of MM2H in 2021 report to MOTAC, I think they were quietly integrated into this new version of MM2H. There is a lot of very interesting and common sense related and very practical things inside this new MM2H requirement, which was actually in black and white, available in PDF, directly in English at the MOTAC's website. One of the long-standing concerns since MM2H began in 2002 was the lack of clear documentation. Outside a basic approval letter, there were no other things official outlining your long-term rights, particularly when it comes to visa renewals. Since 2002, requirements were always grandfathered, meaning that if you applied under one set of rules, you would renew under the same terms.
Right.
But that was never officially documented.
I see. Okay.
Just accepted in practice.
And that's an incredibly important piece of information.
Let me just guide you through a few things. Number 1, if you ask me a question, do I need to pay taxes in Malaysia? I said, nope. Do you have a black and white? Nope. Do I apply for MM2H with the same requirements and I renew with it? Yes. Do I have a black and white? Nope.
So none of this was written. None of this was
None of this were written. With the new MM2H, that has completely changed for the better.
Right.
Anyone can now download the full PDF guide in English from the MOTAC website.
Isn't it astounding that this has been in place since 2002 and it's only till now that that's actually happened?
There were a few changes, but they rest on the same basic principle that was founded in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
They just built on it. And I'm not surprised if they think, oh, probably they did it last time, until when COVID came and it was shut down and everybody reviewed again. It was not done previously.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not surprised if that happened. What happens here now is that if everything is in black and white, that's what I think proposed by PwC. Again, I've never seen that report. It finally provides peace of mind to those who are looking to make Malaysia their long-term base, because it's all inside there. I want to pause here because this part is the most important for your readers at International Living. Technically, MM2H should be known as MM1H or MMPH. Malaysia, my primary home. Malaysia, my only home.
I agree. I really agree.
You know why? This is what this new visa is all about. It's designed for people who really want to make Malaysia their main home, not just a seasonal retreat.
So there's been a change in Malaysian government's focus then. It's not have Malaysia as your second home. It's like we actually want you to make Malaysia your home.
Correct. That's why some of the changes that I have listed earlier, it was in black and white. And some of them grandfathering, it is now in black and white. You see, number 1, it's stated there clearly. Remember just now I told you, am I taxed? I said, nope. Do you have a document? Nope. Now it's stated there. Foreign income is not taxed. And this is very big for a lot of people all over the world. And in fact, in October 2024, the parliamentary session, which you can go online and find yourself to see that I'm talking the truth, Malaysia officially announced that remittance from abroad will remain tax-free until 2036.
2036?
Yes, that's 11 years of tax clarity. And Malaysia, it doesn't state that Malaysia will tax you in 2036. Malaysia will look into this matter in 2036. Again, it is reported in national news.
That's fantastic.
Yes, another 11 years to go. Number 2, visa continuity through inheritance. If the main applicant passes away, the next of kin can take over the visa gift. This gives families long-term security and removes a
Yeah.
lot of uncertainty.
No, that's a fantastic change.
Number third one, renewals are straightforward. Every 5 years, you can renew by simply providing a passport, medical checkup, and proof of medical insurance if you're less than 60 years old. And again, of course, they will do the standard letter of criminal check, background check, or whatever it is. So those are the things that they are putting in. That's why they should call it the Malaysia My Only Home. So these 3 points already state that Malaysia is very serious in attracting people who want to put their roots down here.
TG, can I just go back to the medical insurance issue very briefly?
Go
You
ahead.
said up to 60 years old. What happens after you're 60 years old?
Now, for the Malaysia My Second Home purpose, many insurance company here, they do not insure those general insurance, not comprehensive insurance. They do not insure people above the age of 60 anymore. But if you want to buy on your own personal basis,
Oh, I see.
yes, you
Okay.
can. In fact, we at Autonomous strongly encourage all our clients to buy medical insurance if possible. We strongly nudge them
Yeah.
because it is good, it is cheap, and it covers a lot of things. That will be another part of the episode that we can talk about in future.
Sure. But we also have to recognize that if there are any pre-medical conditions, then they might not be accepted anyway.
Correct, because the underwriting standards in Malaysia for insurance is very high. So coming back to our points just now, it's good that you brought up this insurance thing. Well, when you have these 3 points that I said, income is not taxed, foreign income is not taxed, renewability and transferability, that points alone signal that Malaysia is very serious in attracting people who want to put their roots down here. Of course, there's always a saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So in return, the Malaysian government says that we need a few basic commitments. You need to place funds in a Malaysian operated bank. You need to buy a property. And of course, you have to stay here 90 days if you're less than 50 years old. So as to speak, you need to keep some economic skin in the game.
Sure.
You cannot be just putting here and you run away.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
So it's also worth noting that your money that you place in a bank is just not sitting there. You're earning a 3 to 4% annually tax-free and virtually risk-free interest.
Does that mean you can actually use that interest at the end of the year, TG?
Some banks give it every 6 monthly, some bank gives it yearly. That's a very respectable return by any global
But
standard.
physically, you can take that money out
Yes.
or you can spend that money.
Yes, the money is put into a separate savings account. So yes, this new MM2H isn't for short-term holiday makers or even those staying for 1 year, 2 years. It's for those who are ready to say that this is my only home.
Okay, so let's talk about the hot topic, that what everyone's talking about with this new visa, the property purchase. So what's your take on that requirement for new MM2H applicants?
I'm glad you asked that. And I think this part may actually trace back to PwC's recommendation in their report to MOTEC. And again, I want to stress, I've never seen. I'm just speculating.
But it makes
But
sense.
the logic tracks. There are a few angles to the property purchase requirement. And from what I stand, it makes sense, of course. Number one, it filters out non-serious applicants. Those who come here, they may be some of them 50 years old, they get the visa, but they still don't stay here because there's no 90-day requirement. But they may actually not want to stay here. But when you put this in, Malaysia doesn't lose the interest out to him. If you are genuinely planning to make Malaysia your primary home, then buying a property is a sign of commitment. And
True.
in return,
True.
the government is giving you some very attractive long-term benefits, which I've said earlier: visa security, inheritance rights, and tax clarity.
So it's a quid pro quo. Come and live in Malaysia. We trust you to do that. Buy a property while you're here.
Yes. The next one here is probably a feedback from the participants that PwC get. I think so. Rental is expensive, paying 5,000 a month, 60,000 a year, and 600,000 over 10 years, and there's nothing to show. You own nothing of it. So if you are here in long term, they will force you to say, I would say the forced thing, but if it's a mutually agreeable thing that you know that you have to buy a property, invest in a property, build up some equity, and you stay in the home, you don't have to worry about the rental.
Yeah, true.
A lot of people say, asking people to buy a property is to clear the overhang of or glut of property. That is the myth that floats around. that MM2H is being used to clear Malaysia's property overhang. But if you look at the data, in fact, there was just one published 1 or 2 months ago. Just go and check out in Google. Most of the overhang are the low-cost units or in locations that the foreigners don't buy or cannot buy.
Right.
Because there's a minimum purchase price.
Yep.
There's a lower threshold that foreigners cannot buy. This is to protect the locals, the property that locals buy, the cheaper ones, from being speculated by foreigners. So those gluts are all below the thresholds. So this requirement is not about offloading unsold inventory. In fact, the units that the foreigners buy are in great demand. It's about attracting serious residents.
Yeah, I mean, that makes perfectly good sense too. So TG, just moving on a little bit, what about the different tiers of MM2H? You talked about it very briefly in one of the other episodes. Can you just lead me through that?
The new MM2H, as announced in 2023, comes in only 3 tiers: platinum, gold, and silver. In June 2024, they added an optional track for those who want to live or invest in a special economic zone. To be clear, these visas are for those who want to stay in Peninsular Malaysia. Okay, these are not for the Sabah and Sarawak. You need to apply under their own states if you decide to stay there. Even for people like us, Malaysians staying in Peninsular, we only get a 90-day visit pass to
When you
Sabah,
arrive.
Sarawak.
Oh, that's interesting. So even as a Malaysian, you can't go to Sabah or Sarawak and stay as long as you want.
Nope, it's
You,
only
you basically
90
enter
days.
as a tourist like everyone else does.
Yes.
But what about the other way around, TG?
No, there's no restriction. That was part of the deal that they had when we formed the Malaysia from Malaya.
So Sabah, Sarawakians
Can stay here anytime,
right,
for as long as they like, but not vice versa.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
What happens here is that this applies also to the silver or gold or platinum tier of MM2H.
So once the visa is actually issued, what kind of, if I'm a silver applicant, for instance, what kind of flexibility does that give me?
Well, once the MM2H is stamped on your passport, you can stay anywhere in Peninsular Malaysia. You can come in and out of the country freely. You don't need to report to police, immigration where you stay. You don't need to report to any government officers.
At any time?
Yes, at any time. You don't need to register your address with the authorities, unlike in Europe where you need to register with the local state government or municipality. So this is something that is very interesting for the Europeans, because when they ask for this kind of registration, we don't have.
And is it the same for family members, TG?
Yes. There is no need for you to register for anything. You can come and go anytime. Well, you did talk about the family members. This visa is very interesting because, number one, it allows you to bring in your unmarried children up till they are 34 years old.
You know why? Because most children at 34 are still living at home.
Yes, there is. Now, this is a big thing for the Asians, okay? Mostly for the Asians. You can bring in your parents or parents-in-law. And if you have a disabled child, certified by the medical doctor and fully dependent on you, you can bring that in.
So TG, hypothetically, if you've got 3 disabled children, and it doesn't matter what it is, but can you bring all 3 in?
You
Or is it
can
only
bring
for
all
one?
3, and there is no 34-year-old age limit.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so that is something that is very good.
That's very important.
Compassionate. So yes, I mean, you look at all these things, it's actually a very good setup, a well-rounded setup if you want to do a multi-generational living, or even, especially those who are in Asia, even Westerners who have stayed in Asia for so long, where they got absorbed into some, Asian values or whatever it is, they will still want their kids to be close to them.
Yeah, no, it's hugely important. And I think also the fact about Malaysia that you can actually afford home help here is also a big issue as well. So bringing in disabled children, you can actually afford people to come in and look after them, on your behalf, or get that care, which I think is hugely important as well. So TG, let's talk now about the costs of applying for that MM2H visa, either the silver, the gold, or the platinum. There seems to be a lot of confusion out there as to what those costs are. Can you just clarify that for our listeners and how that works?
Okay, of course. And you are right, there's a lot of misunderstanding. And to be very honest, due to social media, I think the level of comprehension among people has dropped a bit. They're more used to pictures and videos, and when they start to read, there's a lot of misunderstanding. So the pricing structure is actually very clear. There is a government gazette issued by MOTAC. A gazette simply means that it's like a law. It means it is legally binding. All agents must charge for silver category and the special economic zone category 40,000 ringgit for the main applicant, 55 for gold and 70K for platinum. It is for the main applicant. Spouse and I would say spouses. You can have multiple wives here if you want to. You can bring them in. Yeah.
I couldn't, but some
we
people
have
can.
done before. Spouse and dependents are charged differently, and agents can charge any amount for the dependents. It is the main applicant that is bound by the Federal Gazette, and it can be viewed online at the Attorney General Chamber's website. Now, here's the most important part. Agents are strictly prohibited from offering cash discounts or refunds. However, we are allowed to bundle in value-added services like covering your legal fees for the property purchase or comprehensive medical insurance. So while the base fee is fixed, supporting services can vary.
That makes that crystal clear. But I imagine people still try and undercut that.
Unfortunately, yes. However, there's nothing much to undercut, as not many services can be covered. Furthermore, you erode the profit margin, and that will erode the level of service as well.
Sure, that makes sense.
Now, let me share with you. Last year, we were actually falsely accused by someone who reported that we were charging below the legal rate. Our company were actually investigated. And of course, we know nothing will come out from it.
Because and also, you had nothing to hide.
Because it's completely not true. We have been doing this for 20 years, and everything we do is by the book. We have built our reputation, our integrity, and there's absolutely no reason at all to compromise on that, especially now.
No, why would you even risk it?
Yeah, that's just for a quick sale? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I think it's one of the things that I've always loved about orthodontists is the complete clarity from the moment that someone starts talking to you. So kudos to you and your team.
Thank you.
So why is the government then setting that fee now? What's the thinking behind that process?
I think there are a few good reasons. In the early days of the MM2H, sponsors and agents, among them, there are no real standards, no ethical guidelines, and agents just do whatever they want, and usually for a quick profit. Some of them charge very low fees. They didn't advise client properly. And in some cases, they don't even give advice. Or you want to apply? Okay, this, I need this. I submit for you. That's it. You pay me.
And
whether you're successful or not, that's it.
You.
Not my problem. So a few of them couldn't even cover their own costs because, they tried to say that, let's charge it very low. We get a lot of volume. But this is not like a manufacturing where you have economies of scale.
Sure.
You charge 5,000 and you have 50 people. You don't have enough manpower to do everything.
Yeah.
And you can just close down and vanish, leaving clients stuck with a half-finished applications or worse, incorrect information that you provide. And who ends up suffering? The clients. And we knew many of them are happening because we hear horror stories that they took the money, but they never apply anything. So it was the clients who are holding the short end of the stick.
Right.
From what I have heard, MOTAC received numerous complaints over the years. And this kind of poor service, especially on this kind of poor service and unreliability, they can do nothing about it, especially if it is a fake agent.
Yeah.
It is not licensed. But even if it is licensed and they say, no, we are closing down, there's nothing you can do about it. So now with this standardized fee, I believe MOTAC wants to ensure that every agent has the financial stability to complete the job responsibly and professionally, and to provide proper service without cutting corners or racing to the bottom.
Yeah. Again, more clarity, more integrity.
Let's not forget, Keith, agents bear a huge responsibility now.
Yeah.
We must verify that all documents are genuine and applicants are credible. That's what we are doing now.
Because if you don't do that, that comes back on you from MOTAG, right?
Correct. Okay. And right now, on top of that, every licensed agent is required to place a 200,000 ringgit bank guarantee with MOTAG. That's a serious amount of money. It's almost like $250,000. And if we make a mistake or take the wrong client, we may risk having our license
and you would lose
suspended, investigated or whatnot. So when we sit down with our prospective clients, we are not just advising them. We are also interviewing them. If you're not confident with the applicant, we are not going to move forward.
Yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. And I can see now why agents actually don't advertise that on their websites. You know, they're not offering anything like that on their websites.
Exactly. If somebody is very serious, they will reach out to us. And I just have a case. He is serious, the email was lost, he followed up again, and he found out that he used the wrong email address. If you are serious, you ask. You don't
Yeah.
post into a question. We receive a lot of inquiries every week, seriously, a lot of them. And while pricing is always discussed, it usually comes at the end of the meeting. You'll be very surprised. Those serious ones, they don't start off by saying how much is the cost. They start off by saying all the documents, and then at the end, by the way, how much did you charge? Because they know it is going to be 40,000, but they're more interested in what offers you are give. Most clients, they already know the price is fixed. What they really want to know is that, can the agents be trusted? Are they professional? Are they comfortable with them? Can they respond quickly? Can they provide information that is correct? Do they have the experience to handle me? They want it to be done properly and legally. So to be honest, when somebody leads with just a question, how much is your cost? We tend to be very cautious. Because if that is the first priority, they might be missing the bigger picture, which is getting the visa done correctly and fast and reliably rather than cheaply.
Yeah, it's almost an irresponsible question, isn't it? If you lead with that, because I guess it doesn't answer to the core question of the visa. When really what you want to do is learn about the visa and all the benefits of the visa. Instead, you're going directly to the cost. And to be fair, most people would actually have an idea of the cost, but maybe not know the minutiae of the cost. So again, it's like you said, it's a very strange thing to lead with. So TG, let's get to the nuts and the bolts. And I know you love this kind of stuff because you're a detailed guy. Can you walk us through the documentation requirements, and not only that, but the actual application process for our listeners?
Okay, absolutely. And here's the good news. Compared to the pre-COVID MM2H, the documentation is actually simpler. Okay, not much simpler, but simpler.
Simple is good.
Because they require you to buy a residential property in Malaysia. Back in the old days, there is a minimum limit of financial strength and monthly income, which is R500,000 and 10,000 monthly income. Under the new MM2H, that limit is gone. But you still need, and this is just lately, only last 2 weeks.
Okay.
Why? Again, fraud and abuse, and something that we have anticipated. We have already told our clients. These are something that is, not new. They want to see the financial strength, they want to see the income, but there is no limits. They want to see that at least you have the money to stay in Malaysia, rather than just saying that, oh, I can stay. So other than that, it's very simple. We need to have the letter of no criminal record from the country of citizenship or country of legal residence for everybody above the age of 18, and certified copies of kinship documents like marriage certificate, birth certificate, and certified by the Malaysian embassy in your country or your country's embassy in Malaysia.
Right. Okay.
The rest of the documents are very simple: passport size photograph, resume, and all other stuff.
Fantastic. It's a very simple process. So once everything's been submitted, what's the process then?
What happens here is that when we submit all the documents, right now they're looking at this hard copy, but we were informed that the new online version may get on very soon. It may be in a month's time. I think it takes about, the fastest we get is 6 weeks, normally 3 months, 2 months, and the slowest you get is about 4 months, 5 months during the time frame. You will get the approval letter. Now, when the approval letter comes, you have 90 days to come to Malaysia, open a bank account, deposit the money, complete a medical checkup, buy a medical insurance if required. With all that, we will take your passport to Putrajaya to get it stamped with the visa. Once the visa is issued on your passport, you have 12 months to submit your sales and purchase agreement to MOPEC.
You mean your sales and purchase agreement for the property that you have to purchase under the new visa system?
Correct. We tell our clients, don't do it at the last minute. Submit it at the 10th month the latest.
Right.
Okay? To get the SPA done, which is a sales and purchase agreement, sign the sales and purchase agreement. Well, you are given a few months to complete the sale to pay the remaining 90% either in cash or in mortgage. So once you have signed that SPA, sales and purchase agreement, you give it to us. We will submit it to the ministry where the lock-in period of 10 years starts from there.
Right.
And they will give you a letter allowing you to withdraw 50% out. Now, there is a slight change in the requirements of this property purchase. In fact, there is a relaxation. Previously, they say that the property purchase must be done after the visa is obtained. Right now, they change it and they relax it that the date of the sales and purchase agreement can be backdated 2 years from the date where you get the visa.
Oh,
I
interesting.
give you an example. The requirement that you need to buy a property, that property can be a very old property. If let's say you have a property that you bought in 2010,
Yeah.
you don't have to buy a new one. You can use that old
Oh,
one.
so you can.
Yes. It's just that for those backdate 2 years, you can withdraw half out. If you use your property in 2010, you cannot withdraw half.
Ah, okay. So that's the caveat.
Yes. But
Okay.
you can use it to meet the requirements.
TG, let's now talk about the minimum stay requirements, if we can, please.
Okay, the 90-day minimum stay requirement is on a per calendar basis. If you get the visa in the middle of a year, it will be prorated out. If the main applicant is above the age of 50, then the requirement is waived for the entire family, regardless of the age of the applicant.
Okay.
If the applicant is under the age of 50, the whole family can contribute to staying the 90 days. So if they have 5 people in total, as long as all these 5 people add up to 90 days per year, then they are fine.
So a cumulative thing. If 5 members adds up to 90 days, then they're covered.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if the main applicant is 48 years old, he just needs to stay 90 days per year for 2 more years until he's 50.
Okay.
Beyond 50, he doesn't need to stay.
Okay.
The 90 days does not have to be continuous, but they cannot roll over. Say, for example, this year I stay only 10 days, the next year I want to stay 100 days.
Sure.
No, it doesn't roll over.
Yeah.
It has to be consistently every year.
Yeah.
And it is calendar-based years. And if your visa is issued mid of the year, then it's prorated out, okay, on how many days. If there's 6 months to go, then you only need to stay 45 days over the next 6 months.
Okay. So TG, what about the shift to agent-only applications? Because that used to be a big deal, but now not so much.
Well, when the government first announced that only licensed agent could submit the application, there were a lot of complaints.
I bet.
A lot of
I bet.
complaints. I'm not surprised many of them are fake agents, okay? Or those people who wants to apply on their own. But when you talk about the one, you need to buy a property and 150,000 fixed deposit.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, the 40,000 that you're supposed to pay is not that much because that 40,000 includes all the visa fees in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if you look at the data directly, I have seen before, and also indirectly, direct applicants were actually a small minority. You can see it very clearly at the MM2H center. The queue there, all the time, most of the time, practically every time, you can even say that. The majority is always the agents. It's only 1 or 2, 3 or 4, 4 or 5 maximum per day.
Yeah.
Those are the direct applicants. But here's the reality. Direct applicants don't know the process flow, the documentation and everything.
And that's actually a really important issue.
Correct. MOTAC is not a call center. They cannot field long phone calls about how do I renew? How do I add in my son?
Yeah.
How am I going to do with the new application? These are all very complicated questions that require context, and when someone cannot speak English very
I
well,
was just about to say the language issue is also the problem.
correct, or cannot understand the reply, things slow down very fast,
Yeah.
and it becomes very frustrating.
And also makes it longer for the agent applicants who are there.
Correct. It slows everything down. That's why MOTAC relies on licensed agents. We know what they want. We understand the regulations.
You understand the entire process.
Yes, the language, and we are held accountable for the file that we submit. Direct applicants can't. They submit, they glow, they fly. We don't know where they go, how real it is. You cannot contact them or whatever it is. Agents now carry huge responsibilities, far more than before COVID. For us at Autonomous, we verify documents, screen applicants to uphold the integrity of our company as well as the program. If they as in the government, ever allow direct applications again, I fear we will return to the chaotic days of the fraud, fake documents, and a completely overwhelmed system.
TG, it's been as fascinating as ever chatting to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. I still hear the same old line. Why should I let my money sit in the bank earning nothing? I always had this idea. And my answer is very simple.